Welcome back to SwitchCorner. Today we're going to be taking a look at Unrailed on the Nintendo Switch. This one, it's a multiplayer entry where strategy, anger, and probably the occasional battle with friends will be more than a little frequent. But does it do enough to justify the price point, or is it simply just another short-lived party experience? Well, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here, join our growing family, and let's get started. So gameplay, and at its core, super simple. Work anywhere with from like 2 to 4 players to build a train track and move things along from station to station. Single player has been implemented too, but we're going to talk about that a little later in the video. They actually partner you with an AI, but I will say it's not really the intended way to play. Here with no voice chat though, you'll be relying on some minor emotes to communicate with your teammates, or there's actually a handy way to kind of point at different directions. You click the right stick and you can just set these waypoints around the map. Because of this, it's frantic for sure, but even if it's not a core function, I will say this would work just as well, if not actually better honestly, with access to voice chat. So if you do have that option and you're playing with friends, maybe give that a shot. That way you can just scream abuse at each other, and trust me, you'll be blaming pretty much everyone but yourself. The main core experience here would be endless mode, which basically throws you into this world with your team and you get just a single pickaxe or an axe itself, and you'll be basically collecting one or two things, either wood or ore. Combined, these will make train track pieces, and you'll construct these at the back of the train itself. Now likewise, as you progress, expect these to provide a bit more flexibility, such as building bridges. The idea, it sounds simple, but in execution it's frantic for sure, but absolutely entertaining. Spent most of my time in a team of 3 in which we broke up the jobs. I laid the track while they mined or chopped, and then we rotated on water. Water is used occasionally when the train itself sets on fire, and yes, that is a real thing that happens pretty frequently. Now if you're thinking why not all, axe or chop, it is actually because, as well as I said, you only get one of each tool, so kind of negotiating who's going to be doing what is very much part of the challenge. The big obstacle here though really isn't the speed of the train itself, but in the lay of the land. The more stations you pass, the more complicated these procedurally generated locations will get. You'll start to see the inclusion of enemies who will steal your goods, thin passageways to navigate, or even certain elements in the world that you must go around. It's incredible how dumb you can be in these moments when you instinctively, track down a thin passageway, only to realize you can't get to the back of the train again to collect more train track, and you manage to also leave all your tools behind. As you get further, then even the elements themselves will be out to kill you, so think ice-covered landscapes with snow that slows you down, or a particularly brutal lava level that actually began to rotate the screen to the point where it actually went upside down at one point. This is then all topped off with a day and night cycle that's particularly challenging in the later areas, as your visibility will be minimal just a few feet away. I thought I'd seen everything, and then it kind of slapped me around the face and said, don't be silly, you really think I'm that easy. My first time with this one, it was supposed to be an hour or 2 session. Somehow that turned into 5 hours. The natural progression is incredibly addictive, and I couldn't help but push everyone with me to have, just one more go. Though I will say I'm not really sure how much pushing was, required. Between stations then you'll also get the opportunity to add upgrades to your train. These can impact everything from the amount of track you can craft at one time, to adding some handy explosives, to carrying supplies on the back of the train itself, something that's very useful because part of the strategy is kind of moving everything along with you. Then you can even add actual extra carriages as well. Think larger water carriages, think ones that are basically a big old compass that point you in the right direction to that, next win. The big change though itself is the train. Change this and it will actually change the biome, so the location the game is taking place within. This is the closest thing to progression that you get here. All these items then are brought using bolts that you earn for not only reaching the next station, but also completing in-game challenges or finding one hidden in each world. Challenges though, think things like stack 20 resources on top of each other, or all players, they must cut down 1 tree. It's a simple addition, but it adds for a tiny layer of additional strategy that I really did appreciate. All modes then expect to have options, so think the difficulty, the speed of the train, or even turning on and off checkpoints if you want that ultimate challenge. So outside of this mode then you do get quick mode, which is essentially just quick play. You'll just basically go against like one section, and then you get versus mode as well. This is 1 versus 1 or 2 versus 2. Couldn't try out the ladder though, but here you need to build your track while doing everything you can to sabotage your opponents. All of this gameplay then as well, it can of course be played locally or online. Online though, I will say, just know it does not at this point support crossplay, as I struggled to find anyone to match with, as this was all pre-release. I ended up having to get friends jumping on with me. Single player then, and this is hidden in the local player menu. It's not bad, it partners you with a bot who you basically command with the emotes, but it's nothing compared to multiplayer, as the enjoyment here really with this game, it comes from that teamwork with real people. Single player, don't be wrong, it's a nice touch, but I wouldn't come here exclusively for it. My only real complaints here is obviously the idea of the game is to get the furthest distance. Would have really liked to have seen online leaderboards so we can get friends together and compete with those around us, you know, give us team names, something like that, and we can see how we stack up globally. So graphically speaking then, it channels Minecraft, where we get like blocky small locations, simplistic, but it's honestly a nice design, provides for a lot of colour, while also playing well into the idea of laying trackers underneath all of this like graphical kind of stuff going on. You'll quickly realise all the resources they work on like a grid-based system. While things for sure do get hectic at times as well, the visual style never manages to get too crazy, you know. Basically, no matter how much you try to blame the game itself, it was never the game's fault you failed. Not even the visuals. Probably wasn't yours, to be honest. It nearly always is your friends. I mean, let's face it, that's how it was for me. They may have something else to say about it, but I completely disagree. Apart from that though, you'll see different seasons, the camera's going to flip upside down, it's really nice on the visual front, but I think my favourite part was the menus themselves, where you're walking around on like blueprints to jump into modes or to select that next train compartment. Audio then, and not a lot to say, simplistic like its visuals, few chopping sounds, few explosions, and that's normally the sound of you losing, honestly. That's really about it. The sound though mostly relies on music for each biome, and I gotta say, really good, really catchy. It's kind of like crap elevator music, but it's not crap, and you can hear the kind of like tongue-in-cheek nature of it. Really was impressed with the soundtrack, and I actually found myself after I put the game down, you know, 5 hours later, just kind of humming it around the house. So yeah, overall just like great work. So the final verdict on Unrailed is the rare party game I actually enjoy, because it's more than just mini games and actually requires teamwork and strategy. It's simple at first, but what you will find is something that's very frantic and entertaining, and no doubt locally this is going to lead to more than a few arguments. That's nearly always a good thing for a game like this. It means it's doing exactly what it, you know, needed to do. That said, I cannot recommend it for solo players. If you have friends who pick it up too, who will play online, or you have the option of multiple players in the same household, grab it immediately. But the single player, nice inclusion, but not one that's going to keep you locked in for very long. Honestly, the reason it doesn't work very well is because when AI screws something up, it takes something that would be funny with friends, just kind of turns it into frustration. The price tag here though as well, not the cheapest, but in line with the price on Steam. My only concern now is how active will the Switch Online community be with this one, and will I find folks to jump into a game with me? Always a real concern as a Switch player. I hope it does find a community, because it absolutely deserves it, but just know that is a very real risk you'll be taking the gamble on if you jump in solo. Crossplay, that would have been the ultimate solution, and hopefully that's something we'll see added in the future. If that does happen, I can tell you now, add a point to today's score, because this I've had an absolutely great time with. Today I'm going to be giving Unrailed a great 8 out of 10. So with that, look, a shout out to the patrons who are just going above and beyond to support SwitchCorner. Truly is appreciated, helps more than you know, so thank you all so much. Want to check that out for yourself? It is linked in the video description down below. Then look, hit subscribe if you love the Switch as much as we all do here. Join our growing family, and I'll see you all on the next video. Thanks everyone.